episode of Romance Unleashed was recorded live in front of a live audience. To stay in the loop on future author events, follow Steamy Lit on Instagram.
All right. Without further ado, I would love for you to help me welcome Christina Lauren. Christina Lauren is the combined pen names of Lauren Billings and Christina Hobbs, the New York Times, USA Today, and #1 internationally best-selling authors of over 30 novels, including Beautiful Bastard, The Unhoneymooners, Love and Other Words, The Soulmate Equation, and many more. The recent release includes the paperback edition of The Paradise Problem, the deluxe edition of Love and Other Words, and the reissue of their first series, The Beautiful Series. Lauren lives in California, and Christina lives in Utah. Welcome. I am so excited to have you all in Florida. I feel like we only see each other in California.
I know, for like 3 seconds we were saying that we only ever see Mel like in passing in the hallways at Steamy Lit. We're like, hi,
do you need anything? It's so busy. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on your tour stop. We're so excited to have you. I think to get started, our first question, because we are celebrating the deluxe edition of Love and Other Words, is what is your favorite word today?
Oh, that's a good one. So this is Lauren. I'm Lauren. My favorite word right now is acerbic. I don't know what it is about that. I think it's just like the hard consonants, the C sound. I just love it. Even though it's not an especially sweet word, I just like it a lot.
So I love the word succinct, even though I never, ever, ever am. But I love the word limerence. And if you look on the back of the special edition, so I have a tattoo here for Lo that says limerence. Mm-hmm. And the funny part about that is that Lo has like these beautiful, like, they look like paintings of flowers, and they're for like all the women in her life. And she has this bird of paradise that's for me. And then I got this tiny little... And I was very loud about it too.
That's beautiful. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
The friendship is friendshipping.
Yeah,
I love it. When did you decide to get tattoos for each other?
Well, actually, our first tattoo that we got was the quotation marks, because I'm left-handed and she's right-handed, and we start and finish each other's sentences.
Oh.
And so we got these like a long time ago, long ago. Mine is like, it looks like an old sailor's tattoo. Like it's just like a prison tattoo. And then I think, I had these flowers that I got done for my mom, and it was so funny because my mom hates tattoos, but I really wanted, and I love flowers, and she's this amazing gardener her whole life. And I was like, well, I got flower tattoos for you. And she was just like, all right. Like she couldn't be mad about it, And then I got for my sister, and then, Christina, she's like my third. So I don't know.
Oh, I love it.
Tattoos hurt.
Is that no, you have a few.
Yeah, I have a few, but like hers are so beautifully thought out. And I just look like a 12-year-old girl's like doodle notebook. So
I did the same. Like one day I was just like, I want a Peru tattoo, draw a llama. And the tattoo artist was like, are you sure? And I was like, a llama. And just a llama on my wrist forever. So.
But we got our quotation marks in San Diego in the gas lamp, because that's the first time we ever met was at San Diego Comic-Con. So it was sort of perfect.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So let's talk about how you each got started writing, and then how you ultimately became the best duo to ever do it.
Okay, so I'm Christina, by the way. This is Lauren. So we met in 2009. We were both writing fan fiction, Twilight fan fiction at the time. And Lo was putting on a panel at San Diego Comic-Con on FanWorks. And so I had a popular story at the time, so she invited me to come out. And it was the first time we ever met. We had talked online and stuff, but she had just found out she was pregnant with her youngest daughter, like the day before or something. Hadn't told like hardly anybody, and she told me. And so we always that's how we measure like our friendship, is that her daughter is 15 now. And we just got along so well. And anybody who's ever been in a fandom, it's just super collaborative. So it was really normal for us to be like, hey, do you want to write something together? So we wrote a one shot, which is a little short story in fic. And then that was so much fun. And we had literally known each other for days that we were like, hey, do you want to write a book together? And we had no idea what that meant. So we wrote a YA, like a really depressing, started to write a really depressing, boring one. And then we wrote a YA book, and now here we are. And I had never written for fun until I was in my 30s and I was recovering from a hysterectomy. And I was just like in bed and I discovered fan fiction. And I was like, what is this? People are just writing for the joy of writing. And it just completely changed my life.
Yep. And I started writing when I was like 11 or 12, and I was writing Days of Our Lives fan fiction.
Oh my God.
And this was pre-internet because I am old. And so I would write it in my notebooks and I would like keep them in this drawer under my bed. And then I left for college and like totally forgot about them. And my mom's like, I was cleaning out your room and I found all your notebooks. I was like, oh my God, it's so mortifying. But I wrote, fic throughout college. I wrote Buffy fic and Alias fic and Hunger Games and Twilight. And I just always loved writing fic. And then I met Christina and I was like, oh my gosh, I could actually like write a book. It never really occurred to me that I could do something bigger with it than just like a hobby. And so it was really wonderful because like our friendship and our writing partnership started at the exact same time. It's not like we were friends before and we had to figure out how to create this new partnership where it wasn't like we were only strangers writing together. It was like they both kind of grew together. And writing is such a vulnerable thing. I mean, it's a weird combination of like ego because you're like, well, I'm going to tell a story that people want to read, but also vulnerability because you're like, no one's ever going to want to read this, right? And so you're showing somebody these sort of naked new words and it takes a lot of trust. And so just having somebody that from the very first time we kind of hung out and talked to each other, we had to give each other that trust right away. I think it just made a really sort of special connection between us that's just gotten deeper over time. And we're also super different personalities. Like I'm very type A. She's very not. And so, it's been like a really serendipitous connection. So we're super lucky.
And the first time we met, like to sum up our relationship, we were wearing Edward Cullen Burger King crowns.
Yep.
There's like actually a photo, I should post it. Us just sitting there in Burger King.
We look like babies.
We do.
Oh my God.
It looks like someone took the photo with a potato. I was
know.
like, what year was this?
I know.
What is the favorite fanfic you've ever written?
I only wrote one full fanfic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bo wrote like 1 million words of fanfic, which is also very much like our relationship.
I actually think one of my favorite fics that I ever wrote was a one shot for Hunger Games. I wrote like the night, if anybody remembers Hunger Games, the night before the quarter quell. And I have like PETA coming to Katniss's room and they bang. And it was just like,
Love it.
And it's like, it's both like sweet and dirty. And I feel like it's really in character. I really love it.
Okay. How many of you have ever read or written fan fiction? So you know that at some point your brain starts to forget what is like book canon or movie canon or fic canon. So Lo wrote this fic called My Yes, My No that takes place like in New Moon when they like split up. And there's two versions. There's a version where like she forgives him right away. And then there's a version where she doesn't. And so she wrote this thing where she finds out that when he leaves her in the woods, that he's up in the tree. And so now every single time I watch that movie, I'm like, he's up in the tree. And I cannot tell anymore if that actually happened or if it's slow spec. I mean, in my head canon, he would never have just left her.
Leave.
He would
in
never.
The tree.
So yeah, every single time I
Hold
just
on
start,
tight, Spider Monkey.
I just start screaming it.
Tell us about your writing process. I guess let's start at the beginning. Like, where does the idea come from? Do you text each other? Are you like at a coffee shop and you're like the barista is checking out the customer and now we need to write? Like, and then two people are writing it. So is there one person who does more writing than the other? Just tell us a little bit about that.
So Christina lives in Utah. She lives in Salt Lake, and I live in Southern California. So we aren't in the same place, which makes it tricky in some ways, but also good because I think like if we were trying to write in the same room, there would be bloodshed. Like we just have very different
Okay, but let me
vibes.
explain. It's because Lo is really fast and she's really good the first like time out, and I'm kind of like a sculptor. It's like Legos or something. And I always say that it is like penis envy with words. Because she's just like, brrr, and I'm all, and or she's got her headphones in and I'll go, hey, and she did, this is like trademark Lo. Yes.
I swear I'm nice.
She is.
But we always outline together because there's just sort of like a magic that happens when we're in the same room and we're bouncing ideas off each other. And we have, we kind of have this rolling list of ideas that we have like kind of kept in our back pocket. And we sort of know what our next few books are going to be. And then when it gets to be time to write that one, we spend a few days together outlining it. And we've basically written a book pretty much every way you can co-write a book. We've done alternating chapters. We've done alternating, character point of views. We've just like had the outline and we write whatever needs to be done next. But we found actually, and it's taken us like 15 years to figure this out, that we don't have to write 50-50, that what actually works best for us is if Christina does like what we call a trash draft or a vomit draft, because she's really good at plotting and getting enough action in there and making sure that the pacing of the book is really good. And then I go in after her and I write like a more polished draft, and then she goes in after me and edits that. So we're kind of like layering on top of each other. So the outline is always us together, but I think we've learned to sort of play to our strengths a bit, because if it's just me writing, I'm going to write two people like basically in bed, just having a conversation and sex. That's like all I want to do. And so she's really good at making sure that there's enough world and people.
I'm like, but what
happens? I can't just do thinking. So it's nice. I mean, I think, we've like given ourselves permission to just embrace what we're good at and let the other person shine with what they're good at. And,
it's okay. Also great because she writes something and it sparks an idea for me. And then I go and I build on that. And then when she gets in my version, it builds on that. We just go back and forth, and it really does start to feel like you're seeing the puzzles. Like I told Lo, I was like, I feel like I have this new thing now where like, when I'm writing and if anybody's a writer, you get to where like, oh my God, it's really happening and my armpits get really sweaty. And I was like, this is a new thing. Oh my, what is this?
She'll text me. She'll be like, I'm having such a good day. I'm so sweaty.
Do you ever disagree on like where a plot should go or how certain portions of the book should turn out?
So this is not what you're asking. But everybody wants to know if we fight, like everybody does. Because, I fight with like every woman that I know in some way, but that's good because Lo said once before, you would never want to be friends with somebody who you can't be honest with, because then you're just saying yes to everything. That's not, right. You're not being yourself at all. The things that we do argue about, it's never the book ever, because like it's not Christina and it's not Lauren, it's Christina Lauren. So it's sort of like a superpower. It's not really us. And so everything is for Christina Lauren to make the book better. So it's not me winning or her winning. And if one of us, we do have veto power. So if one of us really doesn't agree on something, we can veto. But normally it's because like I have misread something and I'm just not remembering it correctly. It's never about the book ever.
Is there a favorite like writing part of the process that you love the most?
We both really like revising because the book is done and you're just like sculpting it. But I think it's actually great that we have different parts of the process where we freak out, because I really love the beginning of a draft. I love it when it's like the blank page and it's just like we're figuring out the voice of the characters and we're finding our way into it. And I feel like, oh yeah, like I love the new shiny. Like it's going to be the best book ever. And then I get halfway through and I'm like, oh my God, this is so awful. Like this is so terrible. But that's when Christina starts to hit her stride and she's like, no, we got this. Like this is so great because of this and this. And so, you know, it's really nice that like the part where she's flailing, which is at the beginning, I'm like, no, we got this shit. And then when I start to freak out, she's not. So I think drafting is like tricky, but editing is fun.
I also really love the moments when we have the idea. So the book that we just turned in, that I'm not going to, the book that we just, she has to tell me because I'll be like, here's the thing. We were in Australia last summer and we had this idea. And so like Kristen, where's Kristen? She's over there. Oh, Kristen, our precious, she comes with us when we travel, and she was sitting at the table and we're just like, oh, and what about this? And what about this? And it's just like, we bounce ideas off each other and it's like so exciting. And so it was really fun to have that idea and then to come home in like December, whenever we started it, and start putting it together.
I can't wait until I can just like, well, actually I can wait, but I kind of want to plug something into my brain and just have the book just be like, brrr, because like you have this idea and you're like, it's all there. And you're like, now I have to write it one word at a time.
And it's perfect when it's an idea in your head. It's when you start writing it that you mess it all up.
Yep.
Does the character come first, or does the plot come first, or does it just depend?
It just depends. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like the premise and then we have to figure out who we're going to throw into this crazy situation. And sometimes we have the people and we're like, based on who they are, we figure out like how they meet. So
somebody submitted a question and it was about the different locations that your books take place in. What's your research process for that? Do you travel to those locations? Are you usually familiar with those locations?
We don't travel to, so a bunch of our books are in like California because Lo lives in California. I lived in California when I was little. So I'm in Utah, but I always like consider myself sort of a Californian. And we do a ton of research though. Like everybody wanted to know if we went to the island where they go in Paradise Problem. We did not. We based it off of an island, like an actual fancy rich person resort, but we had not been there. But we do tons of research because that's how I get into the character. It's like, I feel like I really am into competence porn. And so I want you as a reader to think that the person that we're writing about really knows exactly what they're talking about. So like an example is like, Finn in Dirty Rowdy Thing is a fisherman. So I had to read all these books on like Canadian fishermen and like, how I don't even fish in like real life. So about like how, global warming has changed it, climate changes, how, so like, he's not just looking at the weather. It's not just like to see, oh, do I need a sweater today? It's to see like what the tide is going to do, how it's going to affect his day, how much he needs to get done today or before a storm comes or something.
Super exciting stuff.
I know,
right?
I know. And so like, that's why, and like, so when we did Something Wilder, we really wanted you to believe that Lily could take you out into the desert, and bring you back alive. And I was so like, we hired somebody to help us to come up with a map to do everything. And then, the story has to come first. And so we had to cut days, and I was freaking out because you can't get to this place from this place. So if you have read that book, you'll know there's a note in the beginning that basically is like, don't follow our route because you will die. So we do a ton of research, and then only like a little bit actually ends up in the book.
I think you should all keep this conversation in mind because I think the book you just turned in might have some really interesting research to it.
I think
we asked her about the title, what she thought of the title. So yeah.
Keep this conversation in mind because you're going to be like, what was that research? I can't wait to ask you all.
Okay.
We're definitely on some lists now.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't. What, like Something Wilder, I was like Googling how far does a human body have to fall before it dies? And like, if you were looking at my history, I'm sure you were like, who is she killing?
Your FBI agent was definitely like,
seriously,
oh, we need to keep tabs on her. Like, what is happening?
I love somebody in the front row was just like, well, he probably deserved it.
Yeah. He did.
Since we are here to celebrate Love in Other Words, and this is the 7th year since it's published, right? Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
That's insane. It feels like yesterday.
It does. And it's had such an interesting life. this book has been like sorry, I know you had a question, but I'm just going to finish what I was going to say. We like actually started writing it in 2011 before we even were published. We were still writing YA, and we wrote all of the then chapters, and we kind of hit a wall. We're like, where do we take it now? We don't know what to do with these kids. Like, what are we doing? So we shelved it and we started working on other things. And then in 2017, I was like, wait, I think it's a then and now book. And so we wrote this then and now story because they were grown-ups now, and we have to figure out like why they haven't seen each other for 10 years and what's going on. And so it came out in 2018, and it was like, it did well, but our first 14 books hit the New York Times list. And then, our next couple didn't. And it was like a weird time for romance. It was like very like, it was elections, and it was just like messy. And we were like, man, we really love this book. Like, I'm kind of bummed that it's just been sort of a quiet release. And then in the pandemic, it's like TikTok found it, and it just had this whole new life. It's like it found its readers, which was just a really interesting thing, because of all of our books, this is probably like in my top 2, or like, I just really love this book. And so it's just been really cool to see people finding it like so long after it came out. Now we have a deluxe edition, and I don't know. It's very cool.
Especially because we were different people in 2011, and then in 2018, and now in 2025. So it's just amazing to have grown along with it.
How did Macy and Elliot's story come to you? Like, where did the then chapters originate?
So I grew up in Berkeley, California, and my parents bought a cabin on the Russian River, which I swear it's not as fancy as it sounds. It's like a super funky area. Like the houses are all like leaning and half sliding into the river. And it's just like, but they loved it up there, and they loved being able to take us out of like our hometown and kind of get away from everything on the weekends. And the room that was mine, it was at the back of the house, and it had this really huge closet. And I used to pull a beanbag in there and read books. And so I think it was just sort of bringing that to life a little bit. And even though there was no boy next door, it's sort of fun to think about like the person that you meet when you're young and who sort of knows you in so many different phases of your life, and how you can start to see that person differently as you mature and grow up. And I mean, when Macy and Elliot, when you meet them in the book, they're kids. Like, they are kids at the beginning. He's gangly and awkward and, kind of dorky. And, she's like really struggling with the loss of her mom, and they're both going through stuff. And so it's like you get to see them through their whole lives. They really get to know each other and grow up together. And I think that's just, it's so romantic, in some ways. Like, so I think that's sort of where that came from. The place was inspired by my childhood, but I think the characters were inspired by sort of what we love about the sort of childhood friends to lovers.
I don't think anything hits like harder than a like loved you since forever second chance. We've been split apart for so many years. Like, inject it into my brain, please.
I know, right?
Was it hard to write a love that was so passionate?
Oh my God, that's a lot of pressure to do something like that. Which is why, like, if like trying to do it again or something would be so hard, because sometimes those stories just like come.
Yeah, right. You never know.
You have
going to be one that resonates with readers. And I think even at the time, like we didn't. So I'm not going to give anything away, because there are definitely going to be people here who haven't read it yet. But there is a twist. You sort of figure out like why they haven't spoken in so long, and we didn't actually know what that was going to be until we finished the book the first time, and then we're like, this isn't right. We have to change something. And then when we figured out what it was just like, oh my gosh, it was so like in a way devastating to us. But we didn't know if it was going to work. We didn't know how readers were going to feel. And so, that's something you can never predict when you're writing a book. Right. But like now, if our publisher's like, can you write another Love in Other Words? We'd be like, hell no. Like, that's so much pressure, like we wouldn't be able to create that again.
Yeah. I think like the reveal of it all, like, hits you because now you know the whole backstory, how much harder it hits. And I couldn't imagine that it would be so hard to write something that's as deep and
Yeah.
like a love that's so unchanging and unmoving.
And actually, that's why we don't have a new book out this year. And it worked out well because, like Mel said at the beginning, our publisher is re-releasing like 16 of our backlist titles. And so it made sense for us to not have a new book out. But we did actually write a book to come out this year, but it had very much like Love in Other Words vibes, but it just wasn't as good. And we knew it would come out and readers would compare it to that and they would sort of feel like it was a bit of a watered down version. And we're like, this isn't the book we want to release. So, I mean, it is something that happens. Like sometimes the ones that you write that really resonate with readers, it kind of like crosses out that sort of style again for you because you have to let that be the one that stands.
What do you do with a project like that you've written a full book? Do you just kind of hold on to it until it feels right again?
Yeah, just put it away and told our publisher this isn't good enough and figure out something else.
Yeah,
so,
and you know, maybe that book will come back and we'll be like, oh, we know how we need to fix it now.
Right,
yeah.
But I think we were at a place where we were just like, we didn't know what to do with it. We didn't know how to fix it. We didn't want to. We like didn't like being in it, you know? So
You just need to let it marinate for a little bit.
Yeah.
What has been your most surprising or memorable response from readers about Love in Other Words?
I mean, one thing that's always really lovely is how many people relate to Macy and what she goes through with her mom. Like they've just lost somebody or they kind of go through the grieving process, you know, over again or something. We always say that if like a reader comes up to us and tells us that they were able to get a little bit of escape from like the real world in our books, we feel like we've done our job. But that book is different because it like people really look at like their lives and the things that are going on, or like maybe, you know, our children were very small when we started it and now they're older. So it's like seeing your life and your kids' lives and stuff differently. And when, you know, your kid is 7 versus when they're 17 or, you know, so that's probably been one of them is we get a lot of emails and like thank you letters. And we also get a lot of like, we actually had a reader recently whose best friend messaged us and said that this woman had just graduated with her like medical degree and stuff, and she was getting married, and that was her favorite book because she felt like she'd found her Elliot. And so we wrote her a little note and sent her a signed copy because her wedding was themed to like Love in Other Words. And so we sent her like an early copy and wrote her like a little note and stuff. And that kind of stuff is really special.
because we all have those books. I mean, we're readers first, right? We all have those books that totally changed our lives.
Yeah.
And so for us to have a book that somebody like uses to sort of help theme their, I mean, that's huge for us. You know, that's still blows my mind. So yeah, it's really awesome.
And then you made this like memorable character that they are now like marrying, right?
Yeah, it's like their aspiration is to like, you know, to find their Elliot. It's also weird because, you know, like I said, our kids were very little, much smaller in 2011. And my daughter, who is 24 recently, she is not a reader. So she is definitely not a romance reader. She's in college, so she doesn't want to read anything. She doesn't have to. And she read it and she was like, oh my God, you guys are really good. I'm like, thank you.
Do your kids read your backwork?
So my daughter's 15. My son is 18. I still can't believe I'm saying that. That's insane. 18. And so she has read autobiography. It's like her favorite book. And they used to be really big readers. I think they'll come back to it. I think right now they're having to read like To Kill a Mockingbird and, you know, like they're having to do the books for school. So right now they don't think of school as or as books as necessarily super fun, but they used to read a ton. And my son has, this is a podcast, so I'm going to out him a little bit. But yeah, I like know he used to sneak a couple of the books when he was younger because I would like find them in his room and I was like, and so, but I don't think they read them anymore.
It's also very funny. My nephew, like when our kids' friends are reading them or like meet us or, you know, something. And so my nephew was like, I want to ask this girl out to prom and she loves you guys. Can you can you write it inside Love in Other Words so I can give it to her for prom to ask her out? And he did. And then she said yes. And then I don't know what happened after that.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
Is there any part of like the spicier scenes that you are like, you can't read that until you're a certain age?
No, I mean, honestly, like when my son was sneaking these books, he was like 12 or 13. Like he was young. And, I know I had a crisis of conscience at some point. Like, should I let him read, Beautiful Player? But the truth is, I would rather he learn about sex from women writing about female pleasure than learn it from watching, Pornhub or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
So I'm like, they were always just on the shelf, like, come and grab it,
Yeah. I mean, we say this all the time, but like men written by women are just superior. So that's kind of like.
I remember I was working in a junior high and this parent came in and they would like have a copy of the Hunger Games or something. And they were like, is there any sex in this? And I'm like, no, but they're children killing each other.
Right.
And they're like, but is there sex? And I'm like, I think that you should probably like question your decision-making skills a little. Like they're killing each other. So yeah.
What is a trope you have not written that you would like to write?
Okay, so we were at an event a couple of years ago now. What is time? With Maisie Eddings. And she asked us, like, what is a trope we would never write? And I was like, I don't think we're ever going to write like a heroine being kidnapped and falling in love with her captor. And she's like, I don't know. I kind of want to see the CeeLo take on like a guy who accidentally kidnaps like a person and like she's a pain in the ass and he's like trying to get rid of her. And I'm like, okay. So I think like there are some tropes that we think we would never do, but then when we think, okay, well, but how would we do it? It's kind of fun to think about. So now I kind of want to write something where it's, it's initially something that I would never do, but we can kind of put our spin on it.
Like the title of our next book.
Yes.
Yeah. Like that one.
Yeah. Something like that probably. I also sometimes wonder if we would write Love in Other Words now that we have more books and we're in hardcover and stuff. Like, would we write a book that starts out with them as kids?
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that we did it then. Because I wonder if we would like question that and stuff.
No, I mean, for sure. There's there's a fearlessness, I think, that comes with like ignorance when you're a newer author. Like when you're not thinking about who's watching or who's picking it up or who's reading or what your brand is or what people are expecting. There's a fear. You write sort of without fear. And I do really miss that. I miss that feeling of just like not worrying about what the publisher wants or what the readers expect or any of that. And so I think it'll be fun if we finish this next book that we're going to draft this summer. We're going to have like a year and a half to just play, and we want to write some bananas shit. So like that, I think we're going to have some fun.
I think some like morally gray, like skirting onto dark with like a fun take on it I can see that.
We're not saying that it's like Lauren Christina, but we're not nuts.
Christina Laurenova.
Yeah.
For readers who are listening, or maybe readers here who want to recommend you to new readers, what do you each think would be the best book for them to get to know you and your writing?
It sort of depends on what you want. I mean, if you have a friend who loves to laugh, I think Unhoneymooners or Paradise Problem are good choices. If you like the big feels, I think Love in Other Words or Autobiography. But I mean, we really do sort of oh my God. Okay.
Okay. So I always say when people are like, what Christina Lauren book? I'm like, well, what do you like? Because we're sort of like the Cheesecake Factory. Because there's like something for everybody. And she gets so mad. She's like, the Cheesecake Factory, couldn't you do something a little classy? It's just kind of mid. And I'm like, I love the Cheesecake Factory. Who goes in and is like, I don't want any cheesecake, And she hates that analogy so much. But I mean, it's true. There's like really is something for everyone. We have
something mediocre for everyone.
No.
I'm sorry if the owner of the Cheesecake Factory is here tonight, but
I'm never going to say no to the Cheesecake Factory.
Well, I think that they have such solid options, like for everyone. Truly.
Yeah. Because like Autobiography is very different than Beautiful Bastard, is very different than The Unhoneymooners, is very different than Love in Other Words
Right.
is, there's just a million different choices. So just depends what you're into.
I love it. Like the Cheesecake Factory.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll find a better.
I'm taking the L, I guess, tonight. I'm not winning this one.
In a Holidays has been picked up by Netflix for development.
Yes.
Congratulations. What has that process been like? Is it in production yet?
So the script is done. We just heard, a couple months ago that the script has been written and they're going through the first round of of edits. And it's written by Tiffany Paulson. She did Holiday. I don't know if you guys
Which is
saw that
so
one.
good.
Yeah. And she's awesome. So we had dinner with the Alloy team, the Netflix team, and Tiffany. And it's just, I don't know, everyone's on the same page. They really are excited about it. We really love the team. And it's been good. I mean, we have been through kind of every different version of adaptation teams. We've had some where Roomies, where we wrote the screenplay. We've had some where, it goes somewhere and we don't hear about it until the option comes back to us 2 years later. We're like, okay, well, good job. And then we've had, everything sort of in between. And this one has been nice because it's they're keeping us in the loop, but they don't need anything from us. And we're like, good job. Go do your job. We'll do our job. Everybody's happy. And I just can't wait to see it. So
if you follow us, and I posted one day that I got to the airport and it was only after I was through security, I realized I was wearing 2 different shoes. That was the day we had the Netflix dinner and I was just flying into LA and I just happened to look down and I was traveling with 3 people and nobody noticed.
And they were very different shoes. It was one was a platform shoe and one was a Gucci shoe with stripes on it. And she was just oh my God, what?
They were fashion,
Yeah. I was like, well, that explains a few of the looks that I got.
Are there any other of your works in production or that have been optioned?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, we just aren't allowed to say anything until they tell us we can say. Even when the Holidays thing, we didn't know it was going to be announced. And suddenly there was a deadline article and we're like, oh, okay. I guess we can talk about it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some really fun ones.
I'd say if it's a book of ours that you love, it's probably being worked on at some point. So the thing is we have, so the one that we've talked about the most is Roomies. That was, we have the whole team already. We have the director. It's actually been cast the male lead. It was with Village Roadshow. The script was done. We were casting Holland. They bought it. Everything we were about to go. And then Village Roadshow goes bankrupt and they're like, oh, this property might be tied up for a few years before. And I'm just this is Hollywood though. You get to a certain point and then it's just it either goes or it completely falls apart. And, in publishing, you sell a book and it's 99% chance that book is going to come out. You just have to write it. The contract has been signed. And in Hollywood, it's not like that at all. You sign a contract and it's less than 1% chance that it's going to get made. So it's, you just have to keep hustling and have irons in the fire and have a good attitude. And, we've been doing this for a really long time now. So I'm whenever somebody's how's the film stuff going? I'm well, I'll be really excited when I'm sitting down and actually watching it.
What is next for you all? What are you releasing next that you can talk about? Or what are you just up to?
So there's a super secret thing that's supposed to happen in the fall that we haven't announced. And then we said, we turned in our novel for next year. When we get home, we'll do edits on that. And then we have one more book in our contract. So we're going to, as soon as we get home, I'm going to start the draft of that. We'll start doing edits. And we're hoping to get it finished by September so that we don't owe anything anymore. And we can write we have a sexy clue book we want to write. We started writing 30,000 words. And then our publisher was I don't know, maybe you only kill 1 person. And we're that's not Clue.
Right.
So that, and then we have another totally crazy idea. We just want to write and be nuts and not owe it to anybody or be afraid of what people will think. So,
and I feel I was just talking about this past weekend, we've kind of gotten away from those bonkers plot. Historical romance has a ton of those, just wild. And we've kind of gotten away from that. So I'd love to see that come back.
I would too, in part because I'm having a really hard time differentiating a lot of romance that I read right now. As soon as I finish it, I've forgotten what the book was about. And it's no, I don't want that anymore. I want these big swings. I want these crazy stories. I want people to suspend disbelief, even if it's a contemporary romance, And so I think that's what we're going to be trying to do with the next book. And then the one after that. And then hopefully we'll write some really banana sexy stuff.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
What are you reading and loving right now?
Okay. I cannot stop yelling about Gold Coast Dilemma. It's Nana Malone's book. It just came out. It's so good. When you were saying like men written by women is like the best, actually white men written by black women. I'm like, I mean, not necessarily white, like a woman, any man written by Nana Malone is just like my candy. And she is so great and funny and interesting. And she's had such like an amazing life and experience that she's just poured into this book. It hit the USA Today bestseller list today. I know. I'm so happy for her. She's been hustling and that book is like genuinely great. So I would love it if everybody would pick it up because it's at the bookstore, the Steamy Lit bookstore. It's faced out. It's got a beautiful cover. Go pick it up. I love it.
The Romance Rivalry by Susan Lee comes out next week. We're actually going to go on some of her tour dates. And it is like a love letter to the romance genre. It's about two like book reviewers and she can't stand him. And so it's very fun. And then I did not even know this was a thing. The Murderbot books. Have you guys heard of that? No? Okay. She has. So I saw Veronica Roth talking about it and that it's going to be a TV show. And so I got the first one. I was just like, Murderbot? That sounds cracky. Yeah. Okay. So I just started that on the plane. And because we always sort of have an obsession when we're on tour. Last year, it was like Morbid, the podcast. And so this year, so far, it's Murderbot. So we'll see.
Is there any romance in Murderbot?
I have no idea.
It doesn't sound like it, does it,
I know
Mel?
nothing.
But you never know.
I know
Like,
absolutely nothing. I'm
maybe
like, is
two
he like a
bots.
sexy robot? Like,
Yeah.
I think he's a murdery bot.
okay, well, maybe he's a sexy murdery bot.
Oh.
And maybe he has like a partner that's like also a murderer.
Yeah, I have no idea. But I saw it and it was, I love when you just see somebody talking about something and you, with no context at all, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get it. And so that's what I started.
All right. Fuck, marry, kill.
Oh God, I am so bad at this.
Your favorite or any trope.
Okay. Fuck brother's best friend or best friend's brother. Yeah. Marry childhood friends to lovers and kill. You go. I'm going to do my kill.
I can't, you guys, it's almost like, I feel like if I say this, I've just signed a contract.
I know.
It's
she'll
like
have to
binding.
explain each one. Just like, we'll just be patient with it.
Okay.
It's
I'm not succinct. Okay. So I'm going to say, fuck, friends to lovers, marry enemies to lovers, and kill. Oh, no, wait. I was going to say secret baby in there. I love a secret baby.
Yeah. She's a secret baby whore.
You all do. You know you do.
Don't lie.
Kill.
The kill is hard because I kind of want to take it all. I think maybe I'm going to kill billionaire just because I think we need a little pause. Sorry.
Okay.
Everybody's like, no. You can take my billionaires out of my cold, dead hands.
I can't. I'm going to be up laying in bed at night going, kill. I don't. I'm going to say, I'll say kidnapping.
Okay.
Okay. I'm more of like a kill secret baby. I'm a baby hater, but
I've read too many of my mom's like romance, like the Silhouette Desires that take place on a ranch, you know, and it's always like 9 months later, and I just love that shit.
Shows up with a baby. He's got his blue eyes, and he's looking at it going,
He's like doing math. Yeah.
okay. And now these are some questions from the audience. I know you got your start writing Twilight fan fiction. Were you members of Twilight Moms?
no.
No. I didn't even know what that was.
What
for
I was going
a
to say,
long
what are
time.
Twilight Moms?
I think
I
it's
mean-
just moms that
That love
Yeah.
Twilight. Oh, okay.
They went a little harder, I think. Just
Okay. Okay.
I mean, we were very Twilighty. One of my favorite stories is when we were at Comic-Con and we were sitting in line. Like we slipped outside to get into Hall H for the new moon panel. And as we're waiting, this guy comes over and he's like, "What are you waiting for?" And we go, "Twilight." And he's like, "Ugh." And I go, "You're dressed like an elf."
Yeah.
Like,
We're all here,
really?
buddy.
Just keep it going.
What character has been the easiest to write? Have any characters' voices been more difficult to find?
That's good. I think really easy to write would be Bennett, Harlow, and Hazel for me. Those were pretty easy. I think hardest was Holland and I don't know.
I mean, because Lo basically is Bennett.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a
She doesn't
panty
rip
ripping
panties, but
fetish, but
she's bossy and gets shit done and can be scary. I
Really?
would say easiest Fizzy came very naturally.
Yeah.
Josh and Hazel were both pretty from
Yeah.
Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. The hardest I think that I can remember, because I can't remember anything that happened ever, was Connor in the True Love Experiment, because Fizzy is such a huge personality that it was really hard to figure out who the guy was that deserved her. And then as soon as we were like, he's British.
It made it so much easier.
made
We're
it
like,
so much
oh, well,
easier.
obviously.
Yeah. As soon as we figured out he was a dad and he was British,
Yeah.
it came together.
Do you have any rituals around writing?
I always make a playlist for each book. And that started because when we were first writing, we had like multiple projects. In 2013, we published 6 books. And so we always had one that we were drafting, one that we were editing, one that we were releasing. And so we kind of had to like mentally switch between them. And so I would create these playlists that were like 6 songs long, and I would just loop them over and over and over. But that way, when I like sat down to work on one or a different one, I would put on the playlist and kind of just mentally get there. And so I always have a playlist for each book. But other than that, I don't really have any rituals. I can kind of write. I move around. I don't write in the same place in my house. I kind of write wherever I'm comfortable. But
I used to have to write in my office in dead silence in an isolation chamber. And then I was medicated. And now I can write. I actually drafted the last 2 things that I did on my couch. And I do my best work when my husband is watching some Avengers movie or something that I can check in with once in a while and then write. And I'm like, is this how normal people do things?
no, this is such a change for you. Like initially you really did. You needed absolute silence. And now she can write pretty much anywhere. So pharmaceuticals, I'm just saying.
We love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have time for audience questions? How many?
We got one right here.
I loved that decisive hand.
I know,
That
me
was
too.
great.
I love a decisive hand.
Hi.
I'm Jada. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Jada.
What's your favorite book boyfriend that you've written so far?
Oh, that's hard. I mean, I really like Oliver because he's nerdy and he fucks. And I'm going to go with that as final answer.
So I don't normally become obsessed with any of our characters, but Ansel in Sweet Filthy Boy, I was so obsessed with him that when we went to France, I would get a little breathless and I would be like, that's where he would put his motorcycle. And, but I have a very specific type. I realized when we were doing the Tangled book, and it is sort of the wounded, cocky, sarcastic guy. So I love Ethan in The Unhoneymooners. That's sort of
You love Luke and Wicked Sexy Liar.
Yeah. I love the funny, flirty, cocky guys. So yeah. Thank you.
You should wear that color every day.
Yeah, it's
It looks
gorgeous.
so good on
Yes,
you.
yes.
So hi,
Okay.
Nicole.
Hi.
Have you guys ever drawn inspiration from something super weird, like a person, place, thing, a movie that you just saw something and it spoke some sort of inspiration?
Yeah, so we were both, Lo first was very obsessed with the Theranos thing. Do you know what that is? And that's so like this person invented this machine that you could take like with a drop of blood, and it could like run all of these tests, like for people who are scared of needles and blah, blah, blah. And she got all of this money from like Walgreens and Apple and like all of these things. And it ended up not being real. And so we were like, that's how we came up with the soulmate equation, was like this thing that could completely change the world and how it would affect everything. But obviously in soulmate equation, he's not a total like drifter making it up. So that was the inspiration for that. Thank you.
So the question is, do we fan cast when we're writing? And we actually do, only to the extent that we both need to picture the same person when we're writing it, the characters together. But we usually find like models or like a real life, like we don't write Henry Cavill into every book is what I'm saying. And so, but then we that is only once we start. And then as we write, they become somebody totally different. They no longer have that face or that build or that whatever. They become their own person, so that by the time we finish the book, when readers are like, who do you imagine? We're like, this person doesn't exist. So like, we're terrible at the fan casting question. Like when people are like, at book events, they're like, if this was going to be made into a movie, who would you cast? I'm like, and I like hearing it from readers more, because I like hearing who you picture and who you imagine in our characters. Cause it could be totally different for everybody, and I like that.
Have any of you seen The Life List? I think is what it's called on Netflix. Did you like it? I really liked it. I was like, yeah, I didn't know that until I Googled. It's really good. And the hero in it, I think I actually texted Lo and I was like, he's actually really charming and really good looking. And I could see him in like one of our books. You should watch it, you guys.
Okay.
I was so pleasantly surprised. It was really, really good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Listening to this episode of Romance Unleashed. You can listen to us at Romance Unleashed Pod on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.